We're coming out of recess from the previous Monroe County Election Board meeting. We really only have a couple of items on our agenda today. First, the most important one is a resolution appointing additional precinct election officers. Is Kylie going to join us and speak to this, or do you want to speak to this, Nicole?
I do not want to speak to it.
Okay. Is she printing the list?
I'm printing the updated list that is currently
Sorry.
active. No, you're fine. They're like constantly continuing to add in new people because there's so many that have called in and backed out. The last count that we had, we're up to 64 student poll workers that have been added to the list. So at this point, we're just continuing to fill in anywhere we can and as fast as we can. But I'm gonna print the most up-to-date list. That's what I'm trying to do now, and then I can get that to you guys.
We have some travel board requests for the board's consideration, if that helps to address it.
So we'll probably need to amend this or do a separate one for the student?
Right.
So I can prepare a resolution. The student poll workers require unanimous approval of the election board, so they should have a separate resolution than just the non-student poll workers.
Okay. But how does this work from a timing perspective? I mean, once we approve the resolution, you're still going to be adding people, I
As
assume?
soon as you guys approve the resolution, more than likely there's already gonna be multiple names flipped out and switched around. That's the only thing with having to approve this multiple times we won't know the exact people who are working on election day until election day when we get back the reports from at the end of the night saying who was there.
So when we meet in the morning, should we update this?
Yeah.
Okay,
I would suggest that it would be updated again in the morning.
okay. I'm sorry, you were going to say something?
I was gonna say, if you wanted while we were waiting, we have 2 travel board requests for the board's consideration. One, I saw an email from a caretaker at a facility, and this person is rehabbing in a facility in Greencastle, Indiana. This was not planned, and they are concerned about being able to vote at this facility in Greencastle. And then the other person, I just got the travel board request. I did not speak to anyone, but they are at I think a facility in Chicago, Illinois, and have requested to vote by travel board.
So are you making a motion to approve these 2 travel boards?
I am asking to discuss one and make a motion for the other. So for the Greencastle one, I am happy to make a motion. I think that's about an hour from here,
Greencastle.
Indiana, at a medical facility there. They're asking to vote by travel board due to an unplanned illness or injury. And so
Do we have the people to do that?
we have bipartisan teams working who can do that. And the board should be here, the absentee board should be here to allow us to send a ballot with a bipartisan team to have them voted. The one in Chicago, I actually wonder, because we figured out today that's 5 hours each way. And so I am wondering if we would be in a position to scan them a ballot, have them choose, and we remake the ballot here. They would have to waive their right to secrecy, and then a bipartisan team remake that ballot on behalf of that person. But this is the first time this is the furthest distance I've ever seen in terms of someone requesting travel board.
Well, we don't know where it's going. We don't have anybody to look at their
So both of them are
identification.
due to illness or injury.
Right.
They would have to scan us their,
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, there's a lot in that.
There's a lot in that.
That makes me uncomfortable,
Me
just
too.
in terms of precedent. And just process. I mean, that's like, calling in your vote. I don't know, can we even do that if we wanted to?
So precedent, we did have someone several years ago that was at a hospital. They were in an accident the night before Election Day, fully intended to return to Monroe County to vote. We did send a bipartisan board to the hospital in Indianapolis, and we voted them. So I see the Greencastle kind of
Yeah.
the same
Right,
thing.
that one, I don't have a problem with that one either,
This
do
is
you,
the
John?
first time, to my knowledge, we've ever had a travel board request to cross state line and go into another state.
That's the one I have problems with.
So I don't know if the answer is to reach out to IED and find out what our options are. What made the most sense to me, though, rather than tie up those resources 5 hours each way, plus the time it would take to vote, would be to see if it was an option to scan them a ballot, have them mark
No,
the
but
ballot.
you don't know you don't know for sure who you're sending it to. Even if they send us a picture of their ID, you don't know that it's them without the travel board actually physically being there.
So even if they got it notarized, if this is a hospital, I'm assuming it's a hospital, I don't know.
I don't know if they'd have anybody handy to notarize. I don't know, but that it's getting pretty far out there.
Yeah.
No.
So before we walk away, might I recommend that we table that one until we can reach out to IED?
I have no problem with doing that
see
and giving
what
Molly a chance to see if there's anything that prevents us from doing that. We could do that in the morning, I guess.
I don't think they leave until 5. I'm happy to
Okay,
see if we can get a hold of somebody.
that's,
I will say we have quite a few for tomorrow, and they're not sure what time they'll be back tonight. So that is one thing. Travel board's been out all day today, and they said that they could be back around midnight tonight, so. The sooner that we know if they're going, the better.
oh,
I don't think we're talking about them going.
Okay.
I think
Well,
we're
we are to Greencastle.
to Greencastle,
right,
yes.
Greencastle, yes.
And that could be tomorrow, correct?
Yes, it would have to be tomorrow.
Well, can we do with the one that for sure we're
Yeah.
gonna do and the Greencastle?
For the Greencastle, for the voter who is currently at a facility in Greencastle, Indiana, I will make a motion that on Election Day, we send a bipartisan travel board to the address, which is literally Hospital Drive in Greencastle, Indiana, to allow that voter to vote.
I second.
All right, I don't know if there's any public comment? No? Then I'll call the question then. All those in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
The list of election day poll workers I've tried printing, neither one of our printers are online. They have completely gone offline. And Ashley just informed me the ones in the clerk's office were also offline when they were leaving from up there. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to get that printed. I can send it in an email, but it's not gonna be up to date as to when you guys approve it. It will continue to edit, update as we are working.
So basically, if we wait till tomorrow, we could just get all of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Let me add, I received a text message from someone who went through the clerk and sheriff training and for whatever reason wasn't selected for a polling site. I assumed, I asked, are they available tomorrow? Because I assume some people are gonna drop out between,
I mean, so they have the backup list, which is quite lengthy right now because of how many people had volunteered to work for this election. We had more than what we were expecting. It came to the point where we actually had 200 people on the backup list at one point. So we are just working through that backup list at this point.
It's good to have a list that big.
Yeah, it's a good feeling.
Yeah, no, that's great.
okay.
So are we just we'll hold off on the election board and then we can do that along with the student board members in the morning. All right,
So then
cool.
on the Chicago travel board request, I'm happy. I mean, we're not gonna adjourn, right? We're going to,
Recess.
So we can
till
adjourn. I mean, I really appreciate the, the motivation, the sentiment to try and bend over backwards, but we got to color within the lines too, and it seems like there are some limits to what we can and can't do, and this may be one of those unfortunate outcomes that we just can't.
I don't believe
Address.
IED closes before 5. I'm happy to reach out, and call and see if I can get through to somebody.
I appreciate that, Nicole. It's like, it just seems like a lot that you're opening up a process that, may come back to bite us with multiple requests like this in the future.
I don't understand. Yeah, are you wanting to employee comment?
I don't care.
You need to,
Yeah, okay. Bob Austin.
thank you.
Okay. I called the number on the application. The mailbox is full. There is no way we can actually contact him before we make an attempt to go to Chicago.
I don't think we're talking about going to Chicago. I think we were looking for an option to help them vote that didn't involve going.
And his phone mailbox
Is
is full.
full. Well, that certainly could change things if there's no way to reach out to them.
I'm uncomfortable completely with it being out of state, not being able to get anywhere, not having the travel board actually physically there. And now he doesn't have a phone for a week so that we can even contact him.
So let me ask you this,
Okay.
because when we have people who live overseas, nobody from here sees them. They waive their right to secrecy and attest that they are who they say they are.
Did they request an absentee ballot?
Whatever
And was it
requesting
checked out?
overseas and military.
Right, so they did all of this in advance.
They just agree to waive their right to privacy, so if somebody remakes the ballot that they send to a bipartisan team, opens that ballot, and then remakes it. And it doesn't happen very often, but like, let's say it comes back from France, and it's the envelope that is sliced open and the ballot is not good, then they take that ballot and try to remake.
Yeah, but that, correct me if I'm wrong, but, in those cases, there's a very defined statutory process for overseas voting. And so, yes, I mean, just like when we look at, mail-in ballots and we make those determinations, if something's ripped or something, but that's all based on a very defined, statutory process for those types of ballots being cast. I'm not aware of any provisions in the code for people who are traveling out of state, get sick, and then they want to, vote. And so we're making up not that it's a bad concept, but on the fly, we're making up a process for a very different category of casting and counting ballots that, I'm just not really comfortable doing.
And I'm not saying to make it up on the fly. I am absolutely not saying that.
But we are, because this is not something that is prescribed in statute as, people who are trying to cast ballots, in a different process because they're sick. That's not in the code anywhere, so we are making it up.
I'm just offering to see if the Indiana Election Division has guidance. I mean, this can't be the first time that this has happened. And I'm just offering
Okay.
to see what they give us in terms of some guidance? If they say, I'm sorry, there's no provision for this, then,
But even if they say there's no provision for it, it's going to come back to us to decide on whether we want to do it, right? They may say that there's no way you can do this, and that's end of story. They may say, well, maybe there's nothing that, prohibits us from doing this. Then it comes back to us, and, if it comes back to us, I'm still going to be really uncomfortable doing this when we've not really had time to think through all of the safeguards, all the process. How would we want to do this if this was a category of voting that we wanted to enable in this election and future elections? So I don't think my vote would change.
Mine would not either.
But if it's helpful to get clarity, I'm fine with that too.
I mean, if you've already decided, I guess there's no,
Well, if you find,
You may find out you can't do it. Yeah.
well, that's true. But it doesn't appear that that's gonna be, that they're gonna have something in the statute that's gonna allow us to do this, because we would know about that already, just like you know about the military and you know about the living overseas. So, to your knowledge, do you recall anything that would allow this?
I've never
And-
seen,
okay,
I've never seen this.
Okay, all right,
And I'm saying before we put ourselves in a position where somebody says they were disenfranchised because of something that they could not help, and I don't know the circumstance, I don't know anything about anything with this, that we at least say, hey, here's the circumstance without naming the voter, and just say there's a voter who has found themselves in Chicago and have submitted an application saying that due to illness or injury, they need travel board. Is there a precedent for this? What is the guidance? Is this something we can, and if they say no, then at least we can put in writing, we check with IED. There were no options for
I hear what
this.
you're saying.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
And I'm saying if you want, because I believe that they are open till 5, it's 4:22 right now. If you want to take a break, I'm happy to reach out.
I'd rather, well, yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
if you can get someone and get an answer within the next couple of minutes, I don't have any problem with you trying, but we're not gonna be able to wait, for a long period of time to figure it out. Do you know of anything, Molly, in the statute?
I do not know of anything in the travel board statutes.
Okay. So do you wanna take a break?
If you want to go,
Chairman.
5 minutes, take a
Okay,
quick call.
5 minutes, yeah.
But I do want to keep moving on the last item we have.
So we're officially on break?
Yeah, we'll take a 5-minute recess. We are calling the meeting back into order.
Okay. Do you want me to just, okay.
Let us know what you
I reached out directly to Valerie Warcha, who is the attorney for the Indiana Election Division, and I described the circumstances, and she said it is travel board or nothing. And so I am incredibly pained to put anybody in a position where they would feel disenfranchised, but I don't see how we can tie up the resources of sending someone all the way to Chicago and all the way back. That would be the only thing that they did. Only thing that travel board did, and we've got, how many did she say? We've got a number of other travel board requests. So in this instance,
It's better to lose the one than to lose 10 or whatever by sending them up there.
if, I won't object if you're making a motion to reject this request.
I'll make a motion to reject the request for the travel board to go to Chicago.
I will second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. The next item is, relates to the unofficial results reporting. Just to recap, at our meeting on the 15th, We determined that we would just maintain the status quo and produce the results via PDF and distribute them to the media and party chairs as we have in the past, which has been on a unofficial, semi-regular schedule based on what else was happening in Election Central with the counting and canvassing. And we said that if the working group came up with an alternative to do a CVS file for our Monroe County GIS department to populate the dashboard that they created, we would consider that. The working group, when we met, we did demonstrations of the framework for the dashboard. It works. I think John's making some, the other John, not John Fernandez for God's sake, but John Baton is making some additional tweaks. But we are prepared to be able to do that. They are prepared to do that. And we would make that available, the CSV file available to the GIS department at the same time that the PDFs are being generated, so that we're not asking the staff to interrupt regular operations for ad hoc requests for those files, but when the team prints the PDF, that'll be distributed. They would also transmit a CSV file to a thumb drive for the Monroe County GIS team to upload that data into the dashboard. And so we wanted to just codify that, if you will, via this resolution to kind of specify that we are going to do the hybrid approach of continuing with the PDFs as we have in prior years that can be sent out to the media, to party chairs, and then do the CVS for our Monroe, CSV for our Monroe County GIS team. If other folks want in the future, if they want to get the data, the CSV file, they would need to make a records request like we do for everything else, and then the staff would have the flexibility to share that information within a reasonable amount of time, but not have to be doing this multiple times throughout the evening. That's what we tried to capture in the resolution. I think there's one minor thing, Molly, that I would change in the very first sentence. You said that is straight out of the code?
So IC code 31246.3, and I'm reading it off of LexisNexis, says, beginning at 8 p.m. prevailing local time on election day and at least once every 120 minutes until midnight prevailing local time, the county election board shall enter unofficial results for offices elected by all voters of the state and for legislative offices canvassed by the county election board under this chapter until the computerized list as those unofficial results are tabulated.
Yeah, so I think that's the distinction, is that code applies to the state system.
Correct.
And historically, because of the great work that the teams here do, we've actually released interim unofficial results before 8 o'clock. So if we could just change begin at to begin by, then that gives us the ability to do the local production and publishing of results before 8 o'clock and still comply with the state. Does that seem reasonable to folks?
And so I can give you the background on that because I met with the Secretary of State. When that was implemented, some counties in Indiana were not doing anything, just not uploading results at all. And so they wanted something immediately at 6. And when clerks started explaining, the process of people coming back and everything, they picked 8 as, okay, no later than 8, we should have something. It was, I don't know anything about LexisNexis, but I was in those meetings, and it is, you can start tabulating at 6:01. You cannot do anything before the polls close at 6, but at 6:01, you can begin releasing the unofficial results. And you just have to have done something by 8. And then, again, this was to address counties who were not doing anything, and that is absolutely not Monroe County.
Cool.
So what I'm gonna do is I have a printed copy of the resolution, because I do not have access to a printer here. I've marked out at and I've put by and then I've initialed it so that when the board signs it, that handwritten amendment will be reflected.
All right, thank you. Just doing a quick test here. Any discussion or questions about the resolution?
It's basically just making this more clear what we have done before, right?
Right.
I have no problem with that. Nicole? Okay.
I don't have anything.
Okay, well then, all those in favor, please say aye.
I,
Aye. It passes. I guess we don't have any other business until, what, 6 a.m.?
No, that's not accurate. We, as an election board, have to be reaching out to the people who are setting up the polling sites to make sure that they are ready to go for tomorrow.
Okay, let's do it.
But, I mean, I've never done that on a formal meeting. I'm assuming that this part of the meeting would be done, and then we'd all be on the phone.
Right. Yeah, so this part of the meeting, we are in recess until the morning when we will do the appointment of additional precinct election officers.
right, the
Great.
students and the,
Cool.
all right.
We're in recess.